Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August Washington County Quorum Court meeting. It's a pleasure to have you all here. It's good to see the justices. With that, we're going to give it prayer and pledge, and Justice Dean has agreed to do us that honor this evening. Justice Dean.
Heavenly Lord, I'd like to thank you this evening for bringing everybody here safely. I hope you give us knowledge and wisdom to make the right choices. I know in this area there's a lot of growth going on. A lot of people just aren't ready for it. I hope that you can help them to deal with it and to help us make the right decisions to get through it. So I hope you take everybody home safely tonight, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Justice Dean.
Yes, sir.
With that, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Justice Lyons.
I have a amendment to the agenda to remove item 17, the appeals hearing discussions for the Beaver Lake tiny homes. They're still trying to get some of the documentation available to go through that process. I'd just like to table that indefinitely.
Table it indefinitely?
Yeah, whenever they're ready, I think they should just notify us and we'll go from there.
Would you accept taking 16, 17, and 18?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, correct.
So I have a motion to postpone indefinitely items 16, 17, and 18 by Justice Lyons. Second by Justice Dean. Justice Coger?
Am I correct, Judge, that if we table indefinitely, isn't that like the end of it?
I believe he's the subject that has to pull it back off the table.
I'm sorry.
Justice Lyons will have to pull it back off the table when the time's right.
Okay.
He's saying that he's not sure when they'll be ready, and so we don't find it.
Correct. I mean, I reached out to them to ask them what they thought and never got a return call. So instead of us just keep fumbling with it, let's just put it on the table indefinitely. And when they contact us and they're ready, we'll pull it back off.
Okay. Justice Lemmy?
I'd like to say that I talked to their attorney and he wants us to put it off for a month.
He didn't get back to me. I'll go either way. I mean,
Well, he asked me if I'd put it off for a month because he was waiting on the state of Arkansas
we can do it a month. That's fine.
to get their
Table it until next-
septic system
Right.
paperwork back. They haven't received it.
Table it till next month.
Okay,
Yeah,
Justice-
he didn't leave that with me and I called him and they never got back to me. So we can table it for a month.
Great.
We'll see where it's at.
So Justice Lyons accepts that as a friendly amendment
Yes.
to postpone 16, 17, and 18 until
Quorum.
next month's
next
quorum
month.
court meeting. Justice Dean, does your second still stand? Okay.
That's fine.
Any further discussion? All those in favor on Justice Lyons' motion? Those opposed? Items number 16, 17, and 18 will be postponed until next month's quorum court meeting. Any other amendments? And if not, I'll accept the motion to adopt the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Those opposed? The amended agenda has been adopted. With that, are there any preliminary motions? Justice Dean?
Thank you, Judge. I make a motion that all ordinances and resolutions be read by title only.
I have a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions by title only by Justice Dean. Second by Justice Washington. All those in favor? Those opposed? All ordinances and titles will be read by title. Ordinances and resolutions will be read by title only. Excuse me. Item number 5 is a citizens' comment period. We have a 15-minute public comment period with a limit to 3 minutes per individual. Do we have any citizens' comments this evening? When you come forward, please state your name and where you're from.
Judge, my name is Mac Mayfield. I live at 980 Rocky Lane. Sometimes I'm worried about the ability of this body to listen. At the end of the last quorum court meeting, one of the JPs wanted to present facts and figures about how our legal expenses go, and that contend that they are out of touch with our peers. And she was essentially gagged by parliamentary procedure. I think we benefit from free and open discussion about these kinds of issues. Another example of not listening was from November of last year after the ordinance or the election for expanding the county jail. Washington County voted against that 60-40. And within weeks, this body turned around and decided to use discretionary money to continue that effort, although at a smaller scale. So tonight, I think you've got a chance to improve your listening skills. We have the issue of whether the court will hear appeals about planning board issues. I think that's really important rather than forcing people to go to court to resolve that. Also, there are the ARPA funds that have been requested through the process that the county defined for not-for-profit organizations that do an awful lot for our county. And I hope you'll listen to them closely, not just with your ears, but with your hearts too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional public comments?
Sherry Main, 15451 Riches Road, Fayetteville. And my comments are regarding the unfinished business on the ordinance repealing the ordinances to allow the appeals of the decisions to be filed.
Ms.
in
Main,
circuit.
you're gonna have to pull that microphone closer and you're gonna have to face it so we can hear you.
Okay, can you
Thank
hear
you.
me now?
Much better. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, my comment is in regarding to J.P. Lyons' ordinance on repealing the decisions to the quorum court from planning and file those in circuit court. And J.P. Lyons' comment on his ordinance was repealing all of these ordinances, 2009-33, 2009-43, 2009-67, and there's another 2010 that's not listed ordinance. My personal experience with the cut process for appeals